When you don't have much money, staying home is usually the safest choice. Have you ever felt so stuck that you just needed a small escape? Today, I have 1 million dong, that is about $40, and I am riding 15 kilometers away from my village. I constantly worry if staying in the countryside near my parents means giving up my future. It is a really heavy thought, but for today, I choose to leave those worries behind and just breathe. You'll see exactly how far $40 goes in a Vietnamese town, real prices, real street food, and real people. And later, I'll show you a childhood snack I finally bought for myself. Hi everyone, I'm new. Driving behind that car, I cannot help but dream. Having a car like that is a big goal of mine. For now, I just navigate this very broken village road. It was built around 20 years ago and has degraded badly. Fixing it takes government approval and endless complicated paperwork. So people here just learn to ride carefully. Just ahead, you can see two farmers. They are carrying avocados on a very basic cart. They probably just finished a long day of harvesting. This is the reality of my village. People work incredibly hard under the hot sun. Finally, this bumpy stretch ends. We hit a smooth asphalt road and the ride gets much easier. Right here is my old high school. Seeing this school brings back so many memories. I spent 3 years traveling this exact route. Do you still remember the route to your high school? Tell me about it in the comments. It might look like a quiet countryside area, but we actually have a traffic light. We keep riding, leaving the village further behind. Now, we are passing by vast coffee and durian gardens. Usually, this road is very quiet and empty, but today, something is different. Up ahead, there is a suddenly bustling scene. It looks like a big crowd is gathering. Let's get closer to see what is happening. It turns out to be a local fair. Normally, this specific area is incredibly deserted and quiet. You would only see trees and an empty road. But today, it is packed with people, colorful tents, and loud music. It brings a sudden burst of life to this quiet countryside road.
Quá trời, bạn đã nhận được quà từ Milo rồi. Rồi, nhanh chóng trở về khu vực sân khấu với chú nào.
It looks like a promotional event hosted by a milk brand. I can see parents bringing their children to play games. Seeing those little kids receiving gifts with huge smiles on their faces is so heartwarming. I really love lively and crowded places like this. It makes me feel connected to the world. When I was a little girl, I rarely got to visit events like this. My parents were hardworking farmers, and they were always too busy in the fields. They spent all their time just trying to provide for us. So, I never really had the chance to experience this kind of childhood joy. I just stand here for a moment, soaking in the happy energy of these families. Alright, it is time to keep moving forward. Now, I am passing by a large local cemetery. It is very quiet here, a sharp contrast to the fair we just saw. There are some massive, elaborate tombs built with expensive materials, and right next to them are very small, simple, and almost forgotten graves. It really makes me think about life and inequality. Even when we pass away and leave this physical world behind, there is still a clear class divide. Some people rest in absolute luxury, while others fade away quietly in the dirt. Does wealth really define us until the very end? This is a heavy thought for a relaxing day, but it is hard to ignore. I try to shake off those heavy thoughts as I reach a more populated area. Today is about breathing and enjoying the present moment. I stopped at a local ATM to withdraw some cash for my day out. I am taking out exactly 1 million dong, which is about $40. For some people in the city, this might just be pocket change, but for a low-income family in my village, it is not a small amount of money. So far, I have driven almost 15 kilometers away from my home, and honestly, I am starting to feel the weight of my daily routine slowly lifting off my shoulders. Now that my wallet has some cash, it is time to find my favorite thing in the world. Here we are. I am heading straight to a local dessert shop to treat myself. Let's see what they have on the menu today. The selection is quite simple with just a few traditional options. But the best part? Every dessert cup costs only about $1. What is everyone's favorite snack? For me, I am a huge fan of sweet things. They also sell some basic soft drinks and have a small freezer full of colorful popsicles. It is summer here in Vietnam, so the weather is incredibly hot and humid today. A cold, sweet dessert is definitely the best choice to cool down my body right now. I decided to buy 1 cup of pomelo sweet soup and 1 plate of flan cake for myself. For those who don't know, this sweet soup is made from the white pith of pomelo peels, cooked slowly with tender mung beans. And the flan cake is a rich custard made from eggs and milk, served with a little bit of dark coffee and sweet condensed milk. Let's try the pomelo sweet soup first. It has a very mild and pleasant sweetness, not overpowering at all. Mixed with crushed ice, it is incredibly refreshing and delightfully crunchy. It feels like an instant relief from the burning summer heat outside. Now, I am going to drink a little bit of filtered water to cleanse my palate before moving on to the second dish. Moving on to the flan cake. As expected, this one is much richer and sweeter than the soup. The slightly bitter coffee balances the creamy egg custard perfectly in my mouth. It is incredibly delicious. But looking at all this sugar I just consumed, I will probably have to exercise for 2 straight days just to burn off this one meal. That was a very well spent $2 from my budget today. Now that my sugar craving is completely satisfied, I am going to buy my favorite tropical fruit. Guess how much a whole kilogram of fresh mangosteens costs here? It is about $2 for 1 kilogram of fresh mangosteens. This fruit has a perfectly balanced sweet and slightly sour taste. It is incredibly delicious and refreshing. If you ever have a chance to visit Vietnam, you should definitely try it. Now, let's step inside to buy some more snacks. This is one of the largest retail store chains in Vietnam. You can find almost anything here, from dry groceries to fresh produce. It is cool, clean, and a very popular place for people in town to shop. Over here is the canned beverage aisle, packed with Pepsi, Coca-Cola, and many other sodas. When I was a little kid, I used to absolutely love these sweet fizzy drinks. But now that I am older, I care a lot more about my health. So I will just walk past them today. This is the fresh fruit section. Honestly, I usually buy my fruits at the local open air market instead of here because at the traditional market, the fruits are much fresher and the prices are always a bit cheaper. Supporting the local street vendors feels nicer too. After picking up the basic things I need, I stop by a small street stall. I'm going to buy a classic snack that you can easily find all over Vietnam. Can you guess what this is? It is called chui chien or fried banana. The vendor takes a ripe banana, flattens it out, dips it into a sweet batter, and fries it until it turns golden brown. For less than $1, I managed to buy 3 whole pieces. Compared to the big cities, the price here in my hometown is so much cheaper. It is the perfect, budget-friendly comfort food. Let's find a quiet place to sit down and enjoy this treat. The outer crust of the fried banana is incredibly crispy and golden. Meanwhile, the ripe banana inside is warm, soft, and perfectly sweet. This right here is exactly the childhood snack I promised to show you at the beginning of the video. For just a few cents, you get a taste of authentic Vietnamese street food culture. It is not fancy at all, but it fills your stomach and warms your heart. It is such a simple and well-deserved light meal after a long, bumpy motorcycle ride. Eating this always brings me a deep sense of comfort. After eating something fried, it is always a good idea to eat some fresh fruit. So, it is time to balance out that oily sweetness with the mangosteens I bought earlier. When this tropical fruit is fully ripe, the thick purple skin is actually very soft and easy to peel. You don't even need a knife for this. You just need to press it gently with your thumbs and pull the shell apart, just like this. The soft, white segments inside look a little bit like garlic cloves, but they taste like absolute heaven. They are incredibly juicy, tangy, and refreshing in this hot summer weather. It is one of my favorite parts about living in a tropical country. The abundance of fresh, cheap, and delicious fruits is truly something I am very grateful for. As I was walking around, I stumbled upon something that really caught my eye. Look at this small bumper car ride in the middle of the town area. When I was a little girl, I was absolutely obsessed with this game. I used to think it was the most magical thing in the world. But since my family was very poor, my parents could never afford the tickets. So I usually just stood quietly on the outside of the fence. I would stand there for a long time just watching the other kids laugh and steer their cars. Sometimes I still feel a little ache in my chest for that little girl. She had to understand the value of money too early and had to grow up too fast. Even now that I am an adult with my own money, a part of me still deeply loves watching these colorful cars go around. It is funny how childhood desires never really leave us completely. Did you have a favorite childhood game or toy that you rarely got to play with? Share your story with me in the comments. Right now, I am going to find a way to burn off all the calories I have consumed today. Walking around, I noticed some local residents playing badminton on an empty patch of concrete. In Vietnam, this is a very common and beloved late afternoon activity. People do not need a fancy indoor stadium or expensive equipment. They just draw a court on the ground or sometimes play without a net at all. It is a wonderful way for neighbors to socialize and stay active after a long day of work. Since I desperately need to burn off that rich flan cake and the fried bananas, I decide to take a chance. I walk over and politely ask if I can join their game. They are incredibly welcoming and immediately hand me a racket with bright, friendly smiles. Playing sports with complete strangers might seem a bit intimidating at first, but physical activity has a magical way of breaking down barriers and bringing people together. We do not need to know each other's names, jobs, or social backgrounds. We just focus entirely on the shuttlecock flying back and forth in the warm evening air. Running back and forth on this hard concrete court makes me sweat profusely. My heart is racing and my breathing gets heavy, but it feels incredibly liberating. It is exactly the physical release my body needed to get rid of those extra calories. My muscles feel exhausted, but surprisingly, my mind feels so much lighter than it did this morning. This simple, spontaneous human connection reminds me exactly why I wanted to step out of my quiet village today. As I navigate the roads closer to home, I pass by a very large open lake. The surface of the water looks incredibly calm, perfectly reflecting the fading colors of the evening sky. It is too beautiful to just drive past, so I decide to pull my motorcycle over. I park by the side of the road and just stand there to enjoy the fresh, cool breeze. In my rural village, the evenings are usually very dark, silent, and sometimes a little bit isolating. But standing right here, near this vast lake, the atmosphere is perfectly balanced. Taking a moment to look at the rippling water feels like hitting a pause button on my complicated life. I am no longer worrying about the daunting future or the heavy pressure of moving to the big city. I am not agonizing over whether staying near my parents means throwing away my potential. I am just here, fully present in this exact moment, letting the gentle wind dry the sweat on my face. But after playing intense badminton for so long, standing still makes me realize one pressing physical need. My throat is completely dry and I am getting incredibly thirsty. Let's see what kind of refreshing drink we can find around this beautiful lake before the night fully falls. I definitely need to buy a fresh coconut right now. Around this lake, many small food stalls are slowly lighting up. The aunties and uncles here work incredibly hard late into the night. I truly hope they sell out their goods quickly so they can go home and rest. Drinking this sweet coconut water, I take a moment to reflect. Today, I rode 15 kilometers away from home and spent only about $5 out of my $40 budget. This morning, I saw farmers carrying heavy avocados and expensive tombs sitting next to forgotten graves. I even watched a bumper car ride I could never afford as a kid. None of this is glamorous, but it reminds me that struggle exists everywhere. If you ever feel suffocated by your life, just step outside even for a few miles. Honestly, I still fear that staying in the village means giving up my future. Should I leave my parents to chase the big city or stay here? What would you do? If you want to keep exploring the real, authentic life in Vietnam, subscribe. When you don't have money, staying home is the safest choice. But today, leaving was exactly how I learned to breathe again. Next video, I will show you my life inside a tiny room. See you there.